When it comes to social anxiety, we are focused on ourselves and we're focused on judgment of ourselves, and we're not focused on the other person.
In my head.
Hello everybody, if you're new here, I do mental health videos and I go out for walks at night and talk about just like whatever topic seems to be on my mind for that night. And my channel is all about humanizing mental health. I'm Ryan Liberty. Hello, hello. For those that know me already, hi. Tonight I'm going to talk about social anxiety. It's what was on my mind. I'm going to get to it, but I just like to talk about my own mental health in the process so that people can kind of get a vision of what mental health looks like. You know, again, I'm all about humanizing mental health here, and today I don't feel so great, and that's real, so that's what I show you. So I don't feel so great, kind of feeling demotivated. I don't feel depressed, but I just feel like I just don't want to do things. I don't know, for whatever reason, like there was just stressful things going on today, and when I think of the greater picture of my life and the where I'm heading and everything, like usually that motivates me. Usually I feel good when I think about the future, and like that today is temporary, but for whatever reason today when I think about the future, I guess I'm looking too short term into the future and it doesn't look so great. So I'm just kind of like not so motivated, not feeling so hot tonight. So that's real, that's how I feel. You know, my last video I did about anxiety, I said, how often are you checking in on how you're feeling? And my anxiety may not be very high, but I just don't feel so great, so that's what it is. So anyway, me aside, let's take me out of the equation. Today I'm going to talk about social anxiety. I did do some looking into the DSM to learn a little bit more about it and get like a little refresher before I came out here, so let's get into what it is. Social anxiety is not shyness. Normative shyness is a thing. It's just not, I guess, asserting yourself and not necessarily being comfortable around people, but that's okay, that's normal. That's not a social anxiety disorder. 12% of people who have shyness have a social anxiety disorder, so it's a very low rate of people that have both of them. So I think it's important just to be clear on what is social anxiety and what is not, and shyness is not social anxiety. So social anxiety is feeling extreme discomfort when you're around people, maybe anticipating being around people, fear. It may lead to avoidance of social situations. Actually, something that I read in the DSM was that being unemployed for very long periods of time can be an indication that social anxiety disorder may be occurring. It's not agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is different in that agoraphobia doesn't necessarily rely on people being around, but it is frustrating. It is actually something that I'm just throwing out statistics because I was reading them before I left to go on this walk, and 7% of Americans apparently have social anxiety disorder. In Europe it's 2 to 3% of people, and worldwide it's 0.5 to 2%, I believe. So I thought that was kind of interesting that people from the USA seem to have it more often. And when it comes to specific people within the United States, it seems like minorities generally do not have social anxiety as much as typical Caucasian white people. I don't even like to bring race into the equation because I know I'm starting a conversation there. I really don't want to, but it was interesting. Specifically, Native Americans had a higher rate of social anxiety. So those are just things that I was reading out of the DSM. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I think typically we think of social anxiety as something that everybody has, and it's not. There's a difference between what everybody else feels and what is called social anxiety now. I was reading that people who have social anxiety typically it takes them 15 to 20 years, I think it was, before they go in to see somebody about it. So that's a big problem, and that sucks because that means you're suffering for those 15 to 20 years. It may have been 10 to 20 years, but it's a long period of time to be suffering with something and not get help for it. So what it is just not liking, it's not feeling comfortable around people, and sometimes that manifests with, as I mentioned, avoidance, fear, and it usually revolves around feeling like you're going to be criticized, feeling like you're going to be judged. So there's a lot of focusing on yourself and how you appear, and if you're okay. It's not body dysmorphic disorder. I have to say these things because it can look like a lot of different things, and it can be comorbid with some of these things, but it's not those things. But there's a typically focus on how you appear, how you look, and that fear of being judged and fear of being somehow ridiculed, shamed, embarrassed, humiliated. So it's important to think about that it revolves around how we are seen by other people. One other way that it may manifest is if it's not avoiding and shying away from things, it could actually be people who get into lots of conversations and they're very outspoken and they try to dominate the conversation. There's a car coming very slowly, so I'm gonna move. For those that are new here, the cars are just a problem. I don't have a place where I can go to do this. Unfortunately, my home place is not somewhere that's possible, so I go out on walks. But anyway, when it comes to social anxiety, we are focused on ourselves and we're focused on judgment of ourselves, and we're not focused on the other person, which is what I want to kind of highlight here, which is something to think about. You know, why are we so focused on ourselves? Why are we concerned about our status, our embarrassment, our humiliation, whatever it is that we think is going to happen? And often something that sparks a social anxiety disorder is going through a humiliating experience, like being bullied. It was interesting, I think it said ages 8 to 15 is when onset typically starts. So that's high school, you know, that's when that kind of stuff happens. That's when people do things that are embarrassing, or they are made fun of, or what have you. So I think that's interesting, and that's something to take note of. But when we are experiencing social anxiety, we're focusing on ourselves, and something I think that will help us is something that just keeps coming up in conversation lately with a whole bunch of different people that I've been talking with, is this idea that people are on different levels and that you can kind of be like knocked down a level. And I think this idea kind of comes from, well, it's a philosophical idea, and it comes from all kinds of different things, from genes to capitalism to whatever. We don't need to go down that path. But it seems in our society, in American society anyway, there is this belief that some people are worth more than others, or they deserve more than others because they work harder, or whatever the heck the reason is. There does seem to be some kind of like a hierarchy system in place in our social culture. And unfortunately, that sends a message to us that we are worth something depending on how other people see us and how they judge us. Here comes another car. So if we adopt this mindset, if this is how we go around looking at people, we may find ourselves judging other people and judging like, oh, look at what she's wearing, look at what he's doing, I would never do that. And if we're constantly cycling judgments throughout our own head, because that's the way our society is set up, then it opens us up to feeling like we can be judged. So if we can somehow get ourselves to stop that judgment cycle that's constantly running through our head, that may start to relieve some of the social anxiety that we're experiencing, because, as I mentioned, social anxiety happens because we believe that people are going to judge us. We believe we're going to be embarrassed, that something is going to be revealed about us, and our self-esteem is going to take a nosedive. Alright, I'm gonna be like all over the place in this video, and I apologize for that. Let's see. So there's this term called Taijin Kyofosu, I think. It's a Japanese term. If somebody out there speaks Japanese, please let me know how to pronounce that. But it's a term that means that you are... Hold on. Okay, this is the type of stuff that I deal with out here. When I get to the place where I am currently, and now there's a car coming. When I get to where I am currently, I typically have to walk down a dark alley and through a corridor, and then I plop myself here. And for some reason lately, people just come through that corridor behind me. Very weird, because it's not like a place where people normally traffic through. And what just happened now was somebody came through that corridor behind me as I was recording the video you just saw before I cut to a clip. Walked in front of me very slowly, was kind of like staring at me. Then he went to the end of the street, which is not too far from where I am, turned around and started coming back towards me. Again, walking slowly and kind of staring at me. So I realized he was probably drunk. But that was just a little unsettling, just a little bit. I'm okay though. That out of the way, I was talking about Taijin Kyofushu. I know I'm butchering that. If you know what I'm talking about and you speak Japanese, please let me know how to pronounce it. I don't know if I could even find a place. I was trying to look online and I couldn't find anything so great, but it's a social anxiety disorder in Japan specifically, because it's cultural and it's this feeling that we are somehow harming others, or I don't know if harming is the right way, but our presence makes other people feel uncomfortable, so they look away or they back away from us, and that makes us anxious, which can happen here in the United States as well. It can happen worldwide, but there's a name for it over in Japan, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I thought that was worth noting in case you experience something like that, where it's not necessarily about yourself, it's about how you, it's still about yourself, but it's about how you make other people feel. Also, I wanted to talk about how social anxiety disorder is very often comorbid with avoidant personality disorder. And avoidant personality disorder, I do need to dig deeper into what that is. Unfortunately, I'm not so well versed on it, but avoidant personality disorder is typically avoiding social situations, you know, keeping to yourself a little bit more, and it has a lot of these features of social anxiety. So, let's talk about avoidance. There's somebody pulling up. Let's go somewhere else and talk about avoidance. I'm just not feeling it tonight. Something I wanted to add is that, and I know I'm all over the place here, but people with social anxiety disorder often they delay the time that they start dating people. Like it's not the typical development. Like people start dating in their teenage years, you know, it goes along with puberty and adolescence and everything. But when you have social anxiety disorder, then it's delayed. So something else to note. But I wanted to talk about avoidance specifically. And when we avoid social situations because we're anxious around them, and this goes for anything, you know, this can go for phobias, this can go anything that has to do with anxiety really. But it's interesting the way that it interacts with social anxiety disorder. Here comes a car. Well, I guess at least that car went fast, but they really shouldn't be going fast. When it comes to avoidance and social anxiety disorder, we avoid social situations. So we'll avoid going to parties, we'll avoid going to work, we'll avoid going to any special occasions, you know, weddings, things like that, because we don't want to be in that social situation. But the more that we avoid it, the less normal it becomes to be around people, and the more it starts to feel abnormal, and it's like a self-perpetuating thing where you continually avoid the social situation, and then you're not used to the situation anymore, and then it's like, oh gosh, I haven't done this in so long. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? People are going to think something about me. So it's this back and forth, and it's very tough for somebody who has social anxiety disorder, because again, that's just part of their disorder, makes them want to avoid things. So when you have social anxiety disorder, you have to fight back against that. which is difficult. It's stressful. It's not easy. But that's the way forward. That's the way towards healing. So there are some ways that you can deal with this. Some of them could be to start being social in a less threatening environment, such as online maybe. I know sometimes online can be threatening depending on where you go, but pick a place that feels comfortable. Another thing to do would be to join a club or a group of people, maybe people who have social anxiety disorder, so like everybody relates and it's not so uncomfortable because you know you're all on the same, again, I don't want to say on the same level because for me everybody's on the same level, but you have similar difficulties, let's put it that way. Or so you could also, of course, do something like a group therapy where a therapist is guiding you and a therapist is making sure that the environment is safe. So that's what I've got on social anxiety today. Before you go, please hit subscribe if you are new here and you want to hear more videos about mental health. I promise that they're not all over the place as this one. Hit the bell icon if you want to get notified every time that I do a video. YouTube has switched things around, so you got to hit that bell if you want to be notified. What else do we have for you? I was thinking about this today, and this video that you're watching right now will be my 190th video, and it should put me over 31 hours of video that I have recorded, which, putting that into context, every time I do a video, it typically takes somewhere between 3 to 5 hours to actually put the whole video together. So it's a lot of work. That's all I'm gonna say. So if you want to support me in doing that work, I have a Patreon page. You get some extra stuff over there. But I am gonna try. I hate to even put this out there because I don't know if I can do it. I'm gonna try to do a special video for my 200th video, and if that looks like it's going to be a possibility, I'll let you know a couple of videos beforehand, and then hopefully you can help me by sharing it. But by the way, if you like my videos, please let people know that I'm here. Because I know some of you are my subscribers, and you're the people who are probably watching my videos to the end, and I appreciate you for doing that. And I appreciate you when you share your experiences in the comments below. And please, if you have experiences with social anxiety, if you have something you want to add to what I've said, leave that below for our community. But you're the people who already care. I need more people to care. So if you can let people know, share out my channel, just talk about it, whatever, that would help me greatly, and I would greatly appreciate that. That's another way to support me. So share your experience with social anxiety. If there's something that's helped you, leave that down below for our community, because I know this is an area where people want a lot of help. And thank you for joining me as always.